at this property here, we're in Volano Beach down in St. Augustine, Florida. If you actually look that way, you can see the sea oats. So it's an awesome location. We're doing this pool with one of our partner builders. This is a spec home right in Volano Beach. He's got 4 other homes that he built down here, so you need to check them out. They're all on the market right now. We do partner up with custom home builders or custom spec home builders. That's part of, besides our residential customers, and we also do commercials and remodels as well. But right now we're at the plaster phase. I want to start at the truck. In a lot of our videos, we tell you what we do a little bit additional that you might not see during the build process that either goes in for the aesthetics of the pool or the longevity of the pool. Right now, they're in the scratch coat phase, so we'll get back there and see that in a minute. But we use a specific plaster installer who's part of Watershapes University as well they introduce better practices. I said in an earlier video, we do different exposure methods. They do different exposure methods. And also we have some products that we add to the plaster that makes for the longevity and also the aesthetics right off the bat. Traditionally, all the plasters are called an exposed aggregate. You trowel it on, just like you would trowel stucco on, and then you expose it with an acid. We don't use muriatic acid or sulfuric acid to expose it, because what you're doing is you're etching the surface of that plaster to expose the aggregate. That's the colored aggregate in the actual finish itself. When we go back there, it's going to look like a Smurf blue pool. And if you had a white finish, you'd need sunglasses out there because the reflection is so white. Until that's exposed, then you see the true color of the plaster, not necessarily the watercolor, which we're going to see that in another video, but the actual plaster that you picked out. So don't get alarmed when we're plastering your pool and you have a white finish and you don't see any aggregate and you need sunglasses because it's so bright out there. It's not exposed yet. It does get exposed today, and we'll go through that process. But I want to take you to the truck on 2 things that we do. We add a product. There's a bucket on the truck, and it's a little loud up there, so I'll walk up and point it out to you. And we add to the plaster mix called Set and Cure. It's a densifier and a bonding agent. It also allows for the trowelers. It allows for the product to trowel much easier. All this, as you see, is guys throwing the bags in the hopper. It has a specific, not mortar mixer, not concrete mixer. There are specific paddles in there for the plaster. This truck is specifically made by Tempo, actually, for plaster, for a better practice, better finish as an end result. We do put a product called Set and Cure into that mix. Again, it's a densifier and a bonding agent, and it does allow them to trowel easier because everything is hand mixed, hand troweled. The National Plaster Council tells you that there will be imperfections in the finish. Through this process, we're trying to get rid of all the imperfections. Again, I always revert back to building a home or a home. If you stucco a house or if you hardy lap siding like this one is, you might see some little dings and divots and things like that, but then they get to caulk it and paint it. We don't get to do that. The plaster is the finished coat. So we are trying to make that initial stucco application or hardy board look as perfect as possible through the product that we add to it, through the exposure process and through the wash down process, which happens tomorrow. We wash it down with a product called pool wash. So you don't start filling the pool today. We do a water, broom exposure method, not an acid exposure method. For 2 reasons why we do the water method. We don't want to break down the plaster and etch the plaster, which add acid to anything, it's going to start eating into it, because that's what you're doing. Traditional method, you're trying to eat that top layer cream coat off. We want to keep continuing to fortify our finishes, fortify our cements, fortify our concretes. That's why we use acrylic fortifier in our grouts, in our mortars. We use a Set and Cure in our plasters, and then we'll water expose it today. Tomorrow the wash down crew comes and we'll put on a product called Pool Wash. It's not an acid-based, it's not a sulfuric or muriatic acid-based product, so it doesn't eat into the finish. It does allow for a much more even exposure, and you're not eating into the finish and opening everything back up. We want to continue, again, to densify and fortify our finishes for the longevity of the product. And also, when I said that the troweling, these guys don't have to keep hitting the same spot over and over and over. Every time, even on a concrete driveway, you keep hitting concrete, it allows more cream or more fat, whatever you want to call it, to come to the top. Your aggregate sinks down. So if they can trowel it in the same rotation all the way through the pool, they have, when they go to expose it, all the aggregates in the same layer. You don't have a aggregate that's buried further back into the plaster or aggregates too far to the top. A couple other steps that we do, which I'll probably talk about when we get back there, but let's take it on back. But that's what those buckets are. That's that setting cure that he'll be adding to it. There's also the pebble solution at the bottom. That is a curing arrestor. So we spray that on to allow the whole finish to allow it. As it's curing, we don't have a section of the pool that's curing faster than another. What that does, along with the permacoat that we do behind the scenes, allows for more even exposure. If you have one side of the wall that's in the sun, so it's firing off or curing faster, you'll have less exposure on that spot versus the spot that's curing slower, because it'll expose more aggregate because it's softer before it hardens up. Let's take a walk back. The other thing that these guys use is pipe. Allows for a more even run throughout. You don't get what we call, when you're pumping concrete or pumping plaster, you don't get boogers. And it's a hard piece in there. Then you got to take everything apart and you have a concrete pile in the middle of your yard, which we clean up. But that usually happens on shotcrete, especially in the summertime when it's hot. So we pump it all in, unless, for 99% of the time, unless there's a real space constraint or a distance that we can't pump it in. Then it would just, the only time it would be wheelbarrowed in. But when we wheelbarrow in it, we're trying to keep a consistent mixture throughout and consistency as far as the exposure and the product that's going in. When you're wheelbarrowing it, you're pouring it from the hopper to the wheelbarrow, it starts curing. As soon as it starts exposed to air, it starts curing. You'll see if you zoom in, the guys are on cleats right now. They'll be on cleats now, but when they get towards the end of the job, they used to wear carpet on the bottom of their sandals. Now they got these fancy shoes that they make for, almost look like Crocs. So they'll actually be walking on that finish as they get towards the end of the troweling and plastering. They will expose the finish today. It's probably maybe another 45 minutes out before that happens, maybe 45 to an hour. They're doing scratch coat on the floor now, and obviously starting to trowel on the sun shelf. We talked about permacoat earlier for our waterline tile. When we get to the prep phase, we also permacoat the entire pool. We talked about in the tile phase, it's a sealant, it's a bonding agent, and it prevents efflorescence from coming through. But also, what it does, if you saw in the last pool, there's water in the bowl of the pool throughout the project, in the deep end of the pool. That concrete is going to be much more hydrated than the concrete in the sun shelf that's been cooking in the sun all day long. If we didn't permacoat it, we were to drain the pool. When we go to plaster it, being that concrete in the bottom of the pool, the deep end of the pool, is more hydrated, it's going to expose more versus what's on the sun shelf, which is very dry. It's going to wicken that moisture. It's going to start curing faster. It's going to expose less. So by applying the permacoat, we seal in the moisture. We even out the moisture throughout the entire pool. You don't get what they call hydration spots, or you get better exposure, more even exposure throughout the entire pool. Not to say there won't be any imperfection, because it is all hand mixed, hand troweled as you see it, and that's normal. But we are trying to make it as perfect as possible in the beginning. But there will be variations, especially at night when you turn on the light. You'll see every wave in the pool, but that is absolutely normal. So right now, doing the first sets of troweling, and it kind of becomes, it's a hurry up and wait. They'll be working it real hard now. As they start getting down, when that finish starts curing, they'll start slowing down and paying attention to certain corners or steps and doing the detail work. These guys take a lot of pride in their work, and it comes from the top down. Not us, but they're guys as well. I want to show you something over here. Now where he's troweling, we have the channel main drain. We do that for several reasons. We do it for more water flow. It can take more water than the pot drains. And we also do it for the aesthetics look, which I'll show you over in the shallow end. We actually plaster the top of that drain so it blends in with the pool finish. This pool in about 1 hour is going to look a whole lot different than what it looks like now. But I'll show you the plaster. I'll grab it and show you. This will be plastered with the finish of the pool. So you're gonna have, you will see the outline of the main drain, which we'll see in a pool that we're about to go to. But the top isn't just a solid piece of plastic. It also allows larger debris to go through these channel drains. These guys are lucky. There's a breeze. We're on the beach today, and there's a little bit of cloud cover for about 30 seconds, so it's not too hot out here, but it can get hot. So we were at this job earlier, and now they're on to the detail work. And before, when I told you they're on cleats, now they're starting to switch over to the fancy shoes. There used to be carpet feet. But it's detail work. The orange stuff you see on the wall is a curing retardant or a curing arrestor. So it allows everything to cure at the same time. One wall or sun shelf doesn't fire off faster than the other. And again, that's all about the exposure. When they go to water expose it, which is probably about another 20 to 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, before they actually start exposing the finish. And if you focus on the steps, we just came from a pool that was plastered on Monday, exposed, filled up, just not started up. This pool still looks Smurf blue. There's no aggregate exposed yet. So we're still waiting on that process, which is about another half hour or so out. But there's layers of items that we do to make it look just like that pool. Very even exposure, very even finish right off the bat. The guys are starting the exposure process, which you got the deep end wall done already. And you'll see them over here in the sun shelf starting there as well. So they hit certain spots at a time, but if you look here compared to what it looks like, if you get a close up over there, but this is no acid, water, and a broom. But you go from a Smurf blue as far as the product, the orange again is that curing retardant, and then the exposure. This whole pool will be exposed like that. Tomorrow, wash down crew comes, and then the water starts filling up. Pool starts filling up.